Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Brabber, and alongside me is Logan Camden, who is probably feeling some damage emotionally from a heartbreaking Steelers loss last night. But also, Logan, how many times have you gotten to see the Steelers put up 30 in the last handful of years, or much less a 68-yard go-ahead passing touchdown? It's like when people hate the end to a TV series like Game of Thrones, they're like, just pretend that it ends after season 6. That's what happened for you last night with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Just right off the rest, it didn't happen, and what an amazing game for Pittsburgh. Perk Rogers leading you to the promised land.
Yeah, I mean, it sucked to lose that way in such heartbreaking fashion because our defense couldn't stop a middle school football team, but that was an electric
a middle
football
school football team with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and a 40-year-old quarterback, so it's problematic if he's hanging out with a bunch of middle schoolers.
It reminded me of that Russell Wilson game from last year where him and Jameis just had that absolute shootout and we got outdueled. Honestly, I'm not mad because I'm not surprised, bro. This is what I've been saying for 5-6 weeks now. And I said it on the show before that Joe Flacco scared the shit out of me that I thought he might come and beat our ass, which is exactly what happened. I'm disappointed in the defense, but dude, you were right, man. Aaron Rodgers had me excited, bruh. Aaron Rodgers had me pumped up.
Perk Rogers live in the flesh, still slinging that shit around the football field. But we're not talking about football today because, Logan, we are now just a few days away from the start of the NBA season. I am actually so unbelievably excited. And what's great is we've actually been getting to watch some basketball. No, it's not the real thing, but nevertheless, Logan, this has been an interesting preseason. So today, with the preseason now really winding down, we are each going to give our 5 biggest takeaways from preseason basketball. So Logan, I will throw it over to you. What's your first big takeaway?
So I've got a couple of takes about some teams. I've got 3 about specific players, and I'm going to start with one who is on a very important team and is going to need to play a pretty important role for this squad this season. I think Reed Sheppard is going to add some real offensive firepower to the Houston Rockets, man. He had a really good game the other day against Atlanta. 29 points, 6 assists, 5 3-pointers made. And what we talked about ad nauseum throughout the draft process when Reed was going to get drafted was just about how special of an all-time shooter he was. These are all college stats for context. 52% from deep. He was a 99th percentile jump shooter and catch-and shooter. He was a 98th percentile spot-up guy and a 96th percentile off-the-dribble shooter. But I think it's kind of a mistake, and a lot of people did this during the draft. They kind of pigeonholed him into this spot-up shooter role. And I don't think you can do that to a guy like Reed. I think he's going to bring some on-ball chops to this unit. Obviously, shooting is his superpower, right? I will say, I think obviously he's going to need to play this role because of the Van Vliet injury. I don't think he's going to take all of the burden. I think it's going to be split between him and a guy like Amen Thompson. And I think in the long term, he is going to have to improve his handle. Bringing the ball up the court, he doesn't look extremely comfortable. Dribbling in traffic, he can sometimes get into trouble. But I think he can take on some of that load. But he's so good in terms of his feel and basketball instincts. Like, I've always thought that Reed had legitimate point guard chops, right? If it's creating the initial advantage and then kicking out and then relocating. I just think he brings a really valuable skill set to this Rockets team and is going to play a pretty crucial role for them this season. In terms of just spacing the floor with some of these jumbo lineups where you desperately need a release valve and some extra shooting. Like I mentioned, some supplementary ball handling and pick and roll creation. But I also think that Reed is going to be an impactful defender where, like, maybe some people would just look at him and say, you know, oh, this guy is going to get picked on because, he's a 6'2" guard. Reed has got awesome defensive instincts, man, like jumping passing lanes, great positioning, being in the right spot, and he's thick, man. He's deceptively stout. Like, Reed is a strong guy with a strong base, and so, right now, I want to be clear about this. His A1 trait, the thing that is going to make him special is the shooting, obviously, and he can do it in so many ways, off of movement, off of the catch. And I do think long-term, if you really want him to take on like lead ball handling responsibilities, he is going to have to get better with his handle. But I think year one, he provides immense shooting and defensive potential, and as the year goes on, could maybe take on some more of those ball handling responsibilities. But I think he's going to be exactly what the Rockets need this season to step up in spots for Fred VanVleet. I'm not saying every game is going to be perfect from Reed, but I think it's going to be a really encouraging year. You know, I know he spent all of last year in the G League. The Rockets kind of had their rotation fully figured out. I think we're going to see Reed blossom this year, man.
I'm excited for year 2 Reed as well. Now, sometimes, Logan, you use such strong adjectives that take me aback a little bit. Like, I understand Reed Sheppard shot 52% from 3 in college. That being said, so did Aaron Nesmith his sophomore year. Like, I don't know that we need to be throwing around all time. However, elite shooting talent,
Aaron
absolutely.
Nesmith is one of the best shooters in basketball now.
Well, but it actually took him some time to develop to that point, and nobody would call him an all-time shooter, obviously.
I mean, I think Reed is one of the best shooting prospects I've ever seen. I really do truly feel that way about him. If you don't, that's okay. That's what I think of Reed.
I'm more comfortable even with that. All time is just a very, very big term to use. That being said, I'm nitpicking. I think that Reed is an elite shooting talent, and I really do like what we've seen from him in preseason. Now, he is not going to be capable of stepping up and taking on the overall ball handling and playmaking load that is left behind in the absence of Fred VanVleet. I really think he is going to be more of a nice complementary offensive player, a secondary, tertiary ball handler who is able to provide some really nice value in some specific areas with his shooting, his ability to do it off the catch, off of movement, out of pick and roll from serious range. That is a weapon, and he can leverage that into getting into the lane for his floater game, which is a nice aspect of his scoring arsenal. And he does look more composed handling the ball, absolutely, than he did last year. And considering how glaring the need is for them to have a ball handling guard, like, it is worth starting Reed Sheppard. I can say that confidently now. When we talked about this team a month ago, it was kind of up in the air. Like, is he going to be ready to actually give them 25 quality minutes, or are they trying to force him in because the need is that bad, but they'd actually be better off going with some sort of like super athletic jumbo lineup? I definitely feel now that they should go with Reed because he's playing at a high enough level. And as you mentioned, defensively, he's just an absolute pest. That's always been his standout aspect. Defensively, he is one of those pesky-ass dudes, active hands, motor doesn't stop, so active in passing lanes, 3 stocks per game in preseason. So I do feel like he's going to be a nice player for them. You understand that he has some limitations in terms of how much of an actual advantage creator and playmaker he can be, and I do still worry some about him getting overwhelmed athletically at times, and I think we saw that with some of the turnover issues in preseason. He's also not an upper echelon passer. Like, he has good feel as a passer, but he's not making those advanced reads. He doesn't have elite accuracy as a passer. But all of this is only important because of the context and the fact that, like, now there is this gaping hole left behind because of Fred VanVleet. Overall, I feel like, considering what they were getting from Reed last year, where he was never consistently in the rotation, he was in the G League, this has been encouraging, and I'm optimistic about what we're going to see from him this season. He looks back on the trajectory to be the Reed Sheppard who I expected to see when he was a prospect, who was my number 2 guy in that class. And it was never about him having some sort of star ceiling. It was always about him being a really nice guard who can bring you value in a couple different ways on both sides of the ball and complements the guys around him. So I'm excited to see what Reed does this year. I have a takeaway about the Rockets offense as a whole, though. I have been very impressed, and we touched on this a little bit in our last show with Jason, but number 1 in preseason offensive rating. And they succeed offensively with this super unique formula where they are an elite transition offense. You get some of their crazy athletes out in the open court, especially like an Amen Thompson, and they can be so effective there. They should still crush on the offensive glass. That was their X factor mega weapon last year, being the best offensive rebounding team we've seen in years. I still think they're going to be very strong there. And so their offense is going to come down to their half-court success, specifically when it comes to overcoming the Fred VanVleet injury, because that left this desert in terms of ball handling on this roster. And even though we can say, Reed, it looks encouraging, you understand his limitations, and after him, the depth chart is shallow at guard. So they were going to have to come up with some sort of funky formula to still produce good half-court offense, and I really like what they did in the preseason. I was impressed by the amount of ball movement we saw, the amount of player movement that we saw, and the overall fluidity of the offense, considering they do lack that natural lead ball handler. Like, that is a very difficult thing to supplement in an offense, but they do still have a lot of offensive talent, and they do have this unique playmaking talent at the 5 who they can run a lot of stuff through in Şengün. And I really like how they've been playing through him with lots of handoffs, which is a good way to create advantages for guys like Amen, like KD, who do some really good stuff offensively with the ball in their hands, but they're not primary ball handlers. KD just has his limitations in terms of burst, not being able to pressure the rim without an advantage. Amen has his limitations with the handle, the shot making. So when you can get them a step coming around a handoff with some momentum, that makes their life easier on offense, and it just sets things into motion for you nicely. And I really like how Şengün has adjusted early in the preseason. He has been a guy who at times has been something of a ball-stopping post-up hub. Even though he's a very good passer, I don't want to play a ton through Şengün out of the post because of his inconsistencies and issues as a scorer. It just doesn't justify that sort of post-up usage. But when he is a guy who is making quick decisions, who is freeing up ball handlers out of handoffs, like, then you're getting a really nice complementary value out of him that enhances everybody around him. 8.3 assists per game from Şengün in preseason, Logan. I think it's very encouraging in terms of how he's going to be utilized in this new offense, how he's going to help elevate the guys around him. And he and Amen have excellent chemistry. Like, Amen cutting off of Şengün post-ups, cutting off of drives, working with him in the two-man game off handoffs. They just have a really nice feel together, two smart basketball players. And overall, like, some of these 0.5 passes, these super quick decisions where you just keep the ball moving from everybody. There's moments where, like, Amen collapses the defense. He kicks to KD, immediately swings a little touch pass to Reed, knocks down an open catch and shoot 3. Şengün floats a pass to Amen, who catches it midair, fires it over to Jabari Smith, knocks down an open catch and shoot 3. It's a really nice team offensive approach that they're taking right now. And the last thing I'll point out here, Amen Thompson, Logan, 5 of 8 on jumpers in preseason. Super small sample size, and that's like the disclaimer worth giving with all of this stuff. It's preseason. Our takeaways are only going to be so big. You only learn so much from 4 games without stakes, but you can see some wrinkles, and you can see some player development, and you can see some new philosophies from different teams. And Amen shooting well on jumpers on a very small sample size is only somewhat encouraging. Like, I don't think that we're going to see dramatic improvement, but I do think that we'll see a little bit of improvement. And we saw improvement last year. And there's just a couple moments where, like, he takes a handoff from Şengün and the defender goes under, and immediately Amen just pulls and nails a 3 from the top of the key, like, no hesitation. That's an open shot. I don't know that he's going to be consistent with that shot, but just seeing that confidence and seeing him make it once, like, that at least means something. That's kind of a big moment for him. So I do think he is very well poised to make an all-star kind of leap this year, just with increased usage, increased ball handling duties, and the natural progression from this absolute freak athlete who got so much better in year 2 and still has so much more upside to tap into. So they're a fascinating team. We talked about them as being among the most interesting in basketball. There is some real funkiness in terms of lacking that real ball handling guard. And I would still like to see them add that guy. I don't think that Reed is that guy when you get to a playoff series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? I think that's overwhelming. So if I'm looking at what this team needs to address, that's kind of the only thing that stands out. If at the deadline they could make a move for one of those guys, because I do think at some point their lack of a guy who can be that primary ball handler for them is going to come back to bite them. It puts a ceiling on this team. But I really like what they're doing to get the most out of their existing personnel as is.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. I mean, the way to mitigate the loss of Fred VanVleet is change up the style of your offense so you're running it through Şengün.
Yeah.
Also, I was going to add, I don't know if it's going to be this year. I do anticipate it happening eventually. If Şengün can finally add the mid-range jump shot or intermediate range to his game, it even opens up way more for this offense, because the counter that I would run if and granted, teams can't really, because you're comparing him to, like, I know you compared him to like a Sabonis last episode with Jason.
Mm-hmm.
The counter that you could run with Sabonis for a long time, if he was running a ton of those handoffs and stuff, is you just drop off of him and you tag the guy that he's giving the handoff to, and you leave him alone on an island, because it's like, I'm not scared of a Sabonis mid-range jumper. With his jump shot improvement, you know, it's way harder to run that coverage. So my natural counter defensively against those kind of actions for Houston, which I think they're going to rely on a lot this year, would be to run kind of that drop coverage. But if Sengun can add that counter, I mean, it just makes them all the more difficult to stop, because with him out at the mid-range, at the elbow, top of the key, wherever you're running that action from, it just opens up everything inside the paint for back cuts, puts the defense in rotation. Like, it's just going to open up everything in the middle. For context, you know, Sengun was 38% out of the mid-range last year, 42% in the paint, non-restricted area. It's just going to, like you've been talking about with Sengun for years now, it's just going to legitimately add a reliable, like, just shot in this offense that they can turn to if it's a little baby hook or a little turnaround from Sengun, where it's like, okay, we'll just give it to him on the block and let him go to work. But again, it creates all these little ripple effects with the rest of the offense where I can't run complete drop on Sengun, or he's going to burn me with this mid-range jumper. And there hasn't been anything that has, like, really encouraged me. I think the offense, I'm glad that they're doing this, gimmicking it up a little bit. I think it'll create some easy opportunities for them throughout the season. But that's the real leap that could make Sengun's jump shotting improvement that could make a real difference for me in terms of their, like, offensive ceiling outlook.
Definitely, and I would say overall Sengun's scoring, I mean, his shot making at every level, literally his finishing at the rim, his touch in the paint, the mid-range, which is still absent from his game, the three-point shot, which is completely absent, the free throw shooting was bad last year. Like, he still has some major improvements that he needs to make there to become the realized version of himself, and I don't know how optimistic I am about Sengun's scoring upside. That's somewhere where I think I've been a bit lower on him than a lot of people, because yes, he has the craft and he has the post moves, he has the spins, he has the counters, but he ultimately just has to be better at literally putting the ball in the basket. And I agree with you when it comes to some sort of reliable intermediate shot making.
He would become an even more elite playmaker. Like, he's a really talented passer, but if he was able to actually draw double teams and create stuff on the back end, I mean, he's going to create a much higher shot quality. I think it's pretty obvious, but if he just becomes a better scorer, he's going to create way higher shot quality for all his teammates. He's going to be a legitimate offensive hub, which his scoring skill set just doesn't warrant him, you know, taking on that kind of role in the offense just yet. I'm glad he's going to have an elevated role, and I think it's going to help the offense, but, like, again, that's a real leap. And I think a lot of people kind of have this misconception about Sengun because he was an all-star last season. Like, that's still a pretty significant component of his game missing.
But this is just a much better fit when he buys into this. Like, playing through him more as a playmaker, as a passer, compared to asking him to do more as a scorer, is going to lead to better team offense for the Rockets. That is a unique ability that he does have, and it can make up for the lack of ball handling that they have. And obviously, KD helps, taking some of the scoring burden off of Sengun, because now he's got a legit number one scorer playing alongside him. Now, there are still things about this offense that are going to be exploitable in certain matchups, like some of the men's ball handling and shot making questions, like some of these issues with Sengun when it comes to his shot making, like even Kevin Durant, if he goes up against super physical, athletic defenders who can really get up in his space, he can struggle a little bit there. Reed, we talk about maybe having some concerns if he gets overwhelmed athletically against some of these great high pressure perimeter defenses. This is certainly not a flawless offense. Far from it, but it is an offense that is going to do some unique things really well, and I think that that will lead to pretty good results overall. So until they do address that ball handling question, I can't view them as the same sort of, like, legit title contender that I did when Van Vliet was healthy, but I do still view them as the third best team in the West, because I think they're going to be so great defensively, so great on the glass, the depth is so good, they've got a lot of talent, and I do think that they're going to max out what they can do offensively. And for the most part, it's going to be a pretty good formula. So we both have Rockets takeaways. What's your next take, Logan?
We may have a take on this guy as well. I know that you've talked about him in preseason already. I think Ace Bailey can win Rookie of the Year. I've been super impressed with him in preseason, and I will say, kind of like you mentioned, it's kind of hard to have any like super hardcore, big, league-changing takes through preseason. Like, oh, my finals pick has changed. Nothing like that. And for some people, this may be a super lukewarm take. I know that Ace Bailey is extremely divisive. He has been a polarizing prospect. It's never been about the talent. And so for a lot of people, me saying Ace Bailey can win Rookie of the Year, duh, he's super talented. I might be stating the obvious. From my perception of Ace Bailey in the draft, I was afraid that some of these red flags about him at Rutgers could rear their ugly head. But oh my God, he looks bought into this offense. And if they keep running actions like this, he's going to be a problem. Ace has always had an elite complementary skill set, and I've always thought he was a certified off-ball scoring weapon. But some of the stuff that he could get stuck with doing at Rutgers, pounding the ball into the floor, taking contested jump shots, a lot of them difficult deep twos that are just inefficient looks. The guy has been a special shooting talent and a special talent in general, but you just question some of the nuance in his offensive game. But I've been super impressed with him in Utah, man. Some of the actions that they're running, these little dribble handoffs with Nurk, creating these the initial separation and advantage. I know you've talked about this a lot with him as a prospect. He doesn't really have that kind of explosive burst off dribble where elite change in pace where he's going to be able to get by people really easily. So that's a really easy way to just create him that advantage and get him one step. And because he is such a special shooting talent, and he's so tall, that is really all the glimpse he needs to get his shot off. You're essentially creating an easy three for him to step into if the defender can't get through the screen or can't get over the top of it. If he does get through, there's still an opportunity for Ace to get into a one-dribble pull-up in the mid-range. If the defender overcommits off of that screen, Ace can hit a step back and get back to the three-point line. And, like, some of this stuff, man, I know you said it. I think I even undersold it. Like, him flying around screens and hitting threes. He is a spot-up problem when you create him an advantage and allow him to take an easy catch-and-shoot three or attack a closeout. And the one dimension of his game that I haven't mentioned, because it is the off-ball movement, the cutting, all of that is special. He is one hell of a vertical spacing threat, and that's one area where I don't think we've seen them really tap into yet in the preseason that could even up him more if we see him commit to rolling hard. Obviously, it would be ideal to have a better pick-and-roll guard. I don't know if that guy exists here. Like, my favorite guard on this team is probably either Collier or Walter Clayton. I liked both of those guys. I don't know if that's going to get tapped into as much, but it's really encouraging to me that we've seen Ace commit to taking good shots, to running through actions, like just getting to good looks and not doing too much. I thought all of his skills, all of his talent have been on full display, and I'm really encouraged about how he's playing within the system, man. So I think with his role and opportunity compared to some of these other rookies that I'm very high on, because there are rookies I love, Cooper Flagg, obviously, Dylan Harper. You look at the team context around those guys, Flagg, ready to win now. Maybe his role is reduced with Kyrie and AD, right? Dylan Harper, it's not really clear on if he's even going to start. Well, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. We're not really sure on what his role is going to be. Ace kind of has the clearest path to take a lot of shots, to get a lot of burn. I don't know, man. Could he be like a 20-point-per-game scorer as a rookie? I wouldn't say 20. I think that's a little too steep. I think 18 is probably a little bit more realistic. But I think it's on the table, man. I've been super impressed with Ace.
That's a big number just because he is going to do so little with the ball in his hands, and to get up towards 20 points per game as a rookie.
You don't think they're going to run a ton of actions through him year one?
I think they're going to run a ton for him off ball.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is scoring 20 points per game as a rookie, I mean, that's an exceptional bar, Logan. There's not a lot of guys who have hit that. It's Donovan Mitchell. It's Anthony Edwards creeping up there. It's Luka Doncic, it's Trae Young
Yeah,
hitting
like
that.
Melo,
It's guys who have the ball in their
LeBron.
hands a lot. And I just know for a fact that that is not going to be the formula whatsoever for Ace this year. That being said, I also have an Ace Bailey takeaway here. He's doing everything right, and I have been really impressed by him this preseason. And again, we understand it's 3 games, but there are certain things that you can see immediately that are encouraging. If somebody shoots 55% from 3 in 3 games, that can only mean so much to you if you don't believe that over a larger sample they're that level of shooter or whatever. But when somebody is approaching the game in the right way, possession after possession, that matters. And it especially matters for Ace Bailey, for whom that has always been the biggest question. Like you said, the talent has never been in doubt. Now, I think some people have misunderstood the talent, but what I've always said is the best version of Ace Bailey is a more athletic MPJ with plus defense. And that's a really damn good basketball player. My big concern has always been whether or not he would buy in to that role, or if he was going to try to insist upon being like an on-ball scoring wing, if he saw himself as more of a KD type, where I just think his limitations are too glaring and hold him back there when it comes to some serious limitations as a ball handler. You mentioned that lack of real on-ball burst ability to get low and get past people. All of these things that we saw lead to him having a pretty difficult shot quality on ball in college. And then there's also the shot selection of it all. And like that was never, ever the path to success for Ace Bailey. And I was worried when he's turning down workouts and he's saying, I'm a star, that's how I view myself, that maybe he just wasn't going to have the mentality necessary to succeed. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I was like, yeah, I think Ace Bailey's rookie season is going to be a roller coaster. And I worry that in a spot like Utah, where there isn't necessarily a ton of dudes above him who are going to command respect and instill structure here, that things could kind of get off the rails. And instead, in preseason, it was the exact opposite. I mean, the indicators were very good. He's playing exactly how I want to see Ace Bailey play. If you look at his most utilized play types, spot up, 11 possessions, off screen, 8 possessions, transition, 4 possessions, handoffs, 4 possessions. Like, it is all emphasizing ways to make the most out of his off-ball scoring skill set. And he is shooting the lights out off the catch, and he's a hell of a shooting talent. He is playing nicely off handoffs. Like you mentioned, if he's getting into a one dribble pull-up, or if he has an angle to get into the lane, every once in a while taking that, and he's actually made a couple nice passes when he does so, which impressed and surprised me. But for the most part, just being decisive, coming around screens, playing off the catch, and it's been really fun to watch him play in Will Hardy's system, because on paper, it's such a great fit for him. Will Hardy is like, honestly, a genius when it comes to unlocking these sort of off-ball talents. He comes from sort of a Warriors offense school of thought when it comes to lots of off-ball screens and motion. And that's just the kind of system that Ace is going to be most effective in if he buys in. And he looks like he's buying in right now, absolutely. And there's a couple of really impressive moments where it's not just the shot making at his size and the willingness to play off ball. It's also some of the feel stuff playing off ball, where like you see him have a couple of nice cuts. You see him screen for another guy off ball and then slip to the bucket for a dunk. Like, he's making these right decisions. Again, these are all off ball decisions, or they're very quick decisions with the ball in his hands, but that's exactly how he should be playing, not over dribbling, just taking what the defense gives him, and I love what we're seeing there. The footwork is another crazy part when it comes to his shot making. There's one possession where he shook Jabari Smith off ball and then retreating behind the three-point line into the corner. Phenomenal footwork to align himself, get squared up, nail a three. Like, it is that sort of MPJ stuff off ball that just very few guys can do. He is genuinely a special pure shooting talent, and when he just uses that offensively and the ability to punish overplays with cuts and his athleticism, his vertical athleticism, again, he's not somebody who gets by you off the dribble, but he is somebody who can get above the rim when he has an opportunity to do so, not forcing the issue, not over dribbling. If he's just willing to play coming off screens all day, like, he is going to be a very successful offensive player in this league. Now, his limitations haven't changed. He still struggles to create separation on ball. He had 2 driving rim attempts in all of the preseason. 2. Both of them were off of closeout attacks, which is good. I thought that he played well attacking closeouts, but you understand, again, on ball, he is not somebody who is ever going to pressure the rim like that. And I do think because of that and because of how good he is as a shooter, teams are going to start playing him really tight off these actions. And particularly when it comes to like a handoff, I think bigs are going to start coming out really high and just try to force Ace to beat them off the dribble and take away those easy, comfortable jumpers for him. We'll see how he counters with that. I did think we were able to see in his last preseason game, the Mavs constrict the space a little bit more, AD coming all the way up to the level, and that forced like an uglier miss than we had seen from Ace in all of preseason up to that point. And you understand, even though he had like one really nice pick and roll pass that he laid down to Nurk, he's still Ace Bailey. He's averaging 11 plus field goal attempts to 1.3 assists per game. Like when he gets the ball, a jumper is probably going up. But as long as they're the right kinds of shots, great. And so far they've been the right kinds of shots. So I would love to have been too concerned about Ace Bailey. I really would. And I was never somebody who was all out on him because the talent's just too good. Like he went 5th. I had him 6th on my board. I thought that it was a reasonable pick, but I was definitely concerned about the potential downside here. And right now it feels like we're just seeing a lot more of the upside. Because it's not just that Ace is going to be good if he plays like this. He's going to be the kind of good player everybody wants on their team because he can stress defenses off ball. He can be this quick touch, efficient scorer. That's a guy who can elevate any team offense without having the ball. And there's not that many guys like that. So it's a couple preseason games. We'll see where he goes from here. But I just have to feel better about Ace's trajectory right now. Also, when we talk about the Utah Jazz, we cannot do so without shouting out Ice Bryce Sensabaugh and Pablo Escobar, Logan, because Ice Bryce is shooting that shit like a god. So shout out to him.
Best mid-range scorer in the league, I've heard.
And I believe shooting, 45% from 3 in preseason, and also shot above 40% from 3 this past regular season?
No, Bryce Sensabaugh has never missed a shot. I'm not quite sure where you're getting that information from.
You're right, I'm sorry. And I don't know why I was praising Will Hardy. I think that maybe I had accidentally been programmed by some sort of Soviet intelligence, because Will Hardy is actually a basketball terrorist because he hasn't been starting Bryce Sensabaugh and playing him north of 40, if not 45 minutes per game, and ensuring that he gets at least 30 shots up a game. But shout out Pablo, man. One of the great news breakers. Now, you may think that it's Pablo Torre who's breaking all the big stories around the league, but if you saw the story that Pablo Escobar broke, first about Bryce Sensabaugh and his deliberate repression by the Jazz organization, and then the shocking news about where Jason Tatum really got his Achilles from, you have to give credit where it's due. I mean,
wait till you hear about that one.
One of the craziest sports stories I've ever heard, genuinely. Puts the Kawhi aspiration stuff into perspective of like, all right, that is fucking
Nobody's talking
stuff.
about it. They're trying to sweep it under the rug. It's a huge deal.
It's a massive deal, Logan. It is a massive, massive deal, and the media doesn't want you to know about it. But shout out to Ice Bryce, and shout out to his greatest ambassador, Pablo Escobar. So, Logan, we got a couple similar takeaways so far. Give me another one. What's your third take?
So, this is probably my most lukewarm take of the episode, and admittedly, this is a cop-out, so I can talk about one player, and specifically, this was my take heading into preseason. I'm still sticking with it. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to win the Eastern Conference, but I'm even more confident in it, specifically because of one Lonzo Ball. Oh, my God. Lonzo Ball is one of my favorite players on the planet. He plays such a beautiful brand of basketball.
Sexy.
It's sexy. It turns me on, man. It gets me going. It fires me up. He looks so good. And like, one, that was a huge concern of mine just with Lonzo coming back from these debilitating knee injuries. Year over year, had missed so much time with Chicago. Came back, played less than half the year last year. He looks great moving up and down the floor. Now, granted, I will say Cleveland has already said this. He is not going to play back-to-backs. They are going to limit him in terms of minutes. I think that is very smart. But it may be some of the most impactful 20 minutes in basketball of any guys getting that range of playing time. His defense was immaculate, and I think that is going to be a crucial thing for Cleveland in certain matchups where maybe Mitchell and Garland are getting worked by the opposing team's backcourt, and you say, all right, Lonzo, we need you to come in and shut shit down. And he is still one hell of a defensive playmaker, not just locking guys up one-on-one, getting steals, getting chase down blocks. He is a defensive playmaker. And the playmaking off of it just leaves my jaw dropping sometimes. Lonzo makes such beautiful passes. The stuff in transition, flying up and down the court. He has such an elite winning and connective skill set. And he is just extra flavor on top of all of the great depth that Cleveland has going for him. There's a lot of stake in Cleveland, and Lonzo brings some of that sizzle. I think he is just what Cleveland needed, and I just love him, man. I've always loved Lonzo's game. It is very simple, right? Defense, playmaking, catch and shoot threes, but he is so damn good in those areas, and I think he brings the exact kind of archetype that Cleveland needs off the bench. I think he's going to be better than even Ty Jerome was for them last year. Maybe not solely in the half court offensively, but I think in totality with what he's going to do to wreck the game defensively, like, he is one of the big additions of the offseason to me, and just kind of takes up, if he can stay healthy and available, he kicks Cleveland up a notch to where I'm even more confident in them winning the East.
Well, the thing with Ty is he was very, very good. He didn't bring anything different, though. It was like, okay, now we have a third guard who is a really good offensive player and is very good in terms of pick and roll with the ball on his hands, but also can play off ball with these other guys. Like, that was all really good, and Ty Jerome had a great season for them, and I like Ty Jerome a lot. Lonzo brings these different dimensions, though, of, as you mentioned, like the ability to actually step in, play alongside Garland or Mitchell, and be an elite defender who can take on those primary point of attack matchups, who has the ability to switch on to bigger players, and just overall makes them much stronger on that side of the ball. He has the legitimately elite transition passing, which is really well aligned with this Cleveland team that likes to play with a lot of pace. Lonzo is just going to make them even better in the full court. And then overall, I mean, just the passing feel as somebody who can make some of those super quick decisions, keeping the defense in rotation, making the extra pass. And then he is a really damn good catch and shooter. Like, it's kind of obvious, but it is fun seeing it in practice because feels like pretty much everybody was aligned that when the Cavs got Lonzo, it's like, yeah, that's a great fit if he can stay healthy. Not just because he's one of the best role players in basketball, but because of the specific needs that he does fit for this team. And I just hope that we get to see it when it matters most. I would not worry at all about what you get from Lonzo Ball this regular season if it in any way jeopardizes his ability to stay healthy. Like, to me, the no back-to-backs is a no-brainer. I'd hit as many Lonzo rest nights as necessary. If he only plays 45 games because you're resting him that much, that's fine by me. All you need is 20 games in the playoffs for that final push where Lonzo can give you 20 minutes a game, and he gives you such a valuable, different look than anybody else on your roster this year, than anybody else that you had last year. Maybe he has a slightly bigger role for the first few weeks of the season with Garland out, but after that, I think he's a very distinct third guard here who can really supplement some of the areas in which your two star guards are lacking. He could even play alongside both of those guys in certain groups. Like, he has the size to do it, and with his versatility, with his winning instincts, he's just an awesome chess piece for them to have, and I really hope that we get to see them use him as that piece in a playoff run. I'll give you another take about the Central Division, Logan. This is the guy who has maybe impressed me the most in preseason. I fucking love Matas Buzelis. I'm all in on Buzelis. In preseason, gave you 16 points per game, shooting 75% on two-pointers, Logan. 75%. 37.5% from three on more than 5 attempts per game. This is in only like 23 minutes. Shooting really well from the free throw line. I've always liked Buzelis. I believe he was my 4th ranked prospect in the 2024 class. I know that you were high on him as well. He ended up going 11th. It was one of our favorite picks of the draft. And he played really well down the stretch last year. I mean, Already you could see his defensive value, his block rate really impressive, and he was scoring like 13 points per game after the All-Star break when he got a bigger role. His shot looked better than it had as a prospect, and now it just looks like he's clearly gotten better in every way. Like, the shot being what it is right now, Logan, where this is a guy who can shoot better than 37% on 5+ attempts per game, like, as a prospect, it's so impressive and it's so surprising. Like, the development trajectory being that fast.
It was the biggest flag about him as a prospect. He was number 3 for me, but, you know, he had all these connective things. That's what was nice, though. The second Buzelis got drafted, I started seeing clips of him immediately in Chicago. Buzelis is grinding his jumper, off the dribble, off the catch. I mean, if he puts that together, dude, you're looking at a complete player.
He's clearly got the touch to do it. The mechanics look good. They look fluid. Now, he's not somebody who is a dynamic jump shooter off the dribble, but if you give him a little space coming around a screen, he can knock down those pull-up jumpers. He can do it off the catch. He can do it in transition, and I do think that, like, he looks like a pretty good three-point shooter right now. And when you consider how much else he does well, that's a big win. But the even bigger improvement from Buzelis, from last year, from who he was as a prospect, is the ball handling, man. Like, this dude's ability to legitimately string together dribble combinations, to handle in traffic now, to take on legitimate volume as a ball handler and not have any of, like, those bad handle-related turnovers. Wow. That impresses me even more because the shot was a swing factor for Buzelis, and it was inconsistent as a prospect, but you could see some positive indicators. I thought, hey, this guy's limitation in the league is probably going to be his ability to create on ball, and the handle was a part of that.
Really?
Yeah. Dude, his handle 2 years ago compared to what it is today, it's gotten so much better. He was always a very good ball handler for his size. The upside has always been there as a ball handler. But as a prospect, he still had significant polishing that he needed to do there, and he has really, really refined that handle. But it's more so about his all-around progress as an on-ball player, where this is now a guy who can hit you with a nasty hesitation dribble. He's got really nice change in pace. He can hit you with the slow step. Like, he just totally has that poise as a half-court on-ball creator. He's better playing through physicality now as a driver. He's just gotten so much better with the ball in his hands all around.
I thought maybe in the half court, but I thought you could see the glimpses with Buzelis in full court where he is dancing on people.
No, I agree with that. I mean, whenever you have a 6'10" good athlete who can handle whatsoever, they're going to be at their best in transition. I'm talking much more about his ability to actually, like, run pick and roll with volume in the half court and have that consistently tight handle and change pace, and he's just doing all of this stuff so well. Like, as a driver, the guy is so impressive. He is a very good athlete. He's got really good body control in the lane. And then the touch and the length, like, as a finisher around the basket, he reminds me a lot of, like, a Franz Wagner, where he has that ability to shield you off, and he can fully extend with one hand and just, like, flip these beautiful touch finishes off the glass. He's got the size and length to consistently just be super efficient and effective around the rim. And so that half-court driving, that half-court shooting, to me, the progression has been so impressive. And then there's a few other things that we already knew he was going to be great at. Like, I think he's going to be one of the best transition scorers in basketball sooner rather than later. This guy flies up and down the court, filling his lane. He can torch you down the floor without the ball, but he can also be that point forward for you in transition and push end to end. But yeah, if he's filling the lane, he can catch lobs. He can get above the rim. It's really fun to see and really effective. And then he's going to be a plus defender. He's got good feel. He's a smart, instinctual cutter, and he can use his above the rim athleticism to be a really good finisher there. Like, everything about this guy and what we're seeing from him right now is screaming most improved player to me. I think he's going to be that good this year, and I think he is on a potential all-star trajectory. Like, I always really liked Buzelis because I thought he was going to be such a versatile, nice all-around player. But now when you start talking about more of this, like, legitimate on-ball juice and the shot looking as good as it does, that's where you get into the range of, like, okay, maybe this guy could be a 20-point-per-game scorer who is also doing a bunch of other stuff to positively impact the game. Logan, you just tell me when. I'm really thinking he's probably my pick for most improved player. He's a second-year guy, and I don't like picking second-year guys. But at the end of the day, if I have a feeling that somebody's going to take a big leap, I'm probably just going to pick that guy. It's not an easy award to just correctly predict. I'm that confident in Buzelis. In long term, I would take him number 1 in a 2024 redraft. He would be my favorite guy. I am just most confident in his all-around two-way value compared to everybody else from the class. Like, you could talk me into the floor with the Klingon, right, because of the defensive value, the rim protection, the rebounding, the simple offensive stuff. But the offensive upside with Buzelis is just so much greater, while he's still going to be a really positive defensive player. And all the other guys, Reed Sheppard, like, I'm going to say it again, the on-ball ceiling is just so much greater with Buzelis, Reed. Like, all these guys, I'm just more confident in Matas.
The guys I would be debating with Buzelis are still Sar, but I would take Buzelis. Reed would still take Buzelis, what we've seen. And then Ron Holland would be the other guy that I would debate with Buzelis, and I would still take Buzelis.
You are a Ron Holland guy. I am way lower on Ron Holland.
I still think Ron's going to figure it out. But, I mean, Franz Wagner was my ultimate comp for Buzelis during the draft, that if he was going to fully realize – I think you called me a bit crazy for that comp at the time, but –
I believe it.
You could see the skeleton of it, the way he moves, the length, the fluidity, and then the two-way ability, kind of just the way their frames and their bodies. The difference to me, though, Buzelis is a way better athlete than Franz. I think he is. You talked about it. The biggest selling points on him were the defensive playmaking in the transition play. He was great at that with Ignite. All the other stuff, like I think he was an under 30% three-point shooter. Like his shot didn't look broken, but he wasn't great there. Very limited in terms of ball handling. Ron Holland took on those responsibilities with Ignite way more often than Buzelis. But if he's going to figure it out, I completely agree. I think he's got all-star potential, and I don't know if there's anybody else that sticks out more to me as a candidate to take home most improved than Buzelis right now, but all this being said, I was very high on Buzelis. I thought he had an all-star ceiling. I didn't see it happening this quickly. I thought it might take a little bit longer than this. That's what's super impressive to me if he's going to put this together offensively.
I just can't look at anybody else in this class, and there's other dudes who I like. Like, again, you're much higher on Ron Holland. I don't know where. He might be 15th when I go through my favorite guys in this class. But, like, Khalil Ware has been impressive. Jared McCain obviously was super impressive last year. Castle, a lot of people are really high on. I feel like every one of these
ceilings that Matas has.
And like pretty much all of them have bigger questions. Like there's just no way you could have Sar above Buzelis right now when Alex Sar is up to this point still a disaster offensively. And I'm not saying he can't figure it out, but there's way more red flags there. A Castle, I have way more questions about his ability to really function offensively. And I know he just won Rookie of the Year, but still with his major limitations as a shot maker, all of these things to me just stand out as bigger concerns than anything that I have with Buzelis. So we can talk a lot about the misery of Bulls fans, and there is plenty of ammunition there, but I really do think they landed a stud in Buzelis, and he is the building block of the future on their roster right now, and hopefully at some point they can bottom out and get another premier pick and somebody to pair with him. They probably won't. They'll probably just win 33 games until the end of time. But I would very much like to see Matas in a situation where he actually has good talent around him, because the guy is a really good young basketball player, and the leap is coming.
Speaking of teams that are going to win 33 games until the end of time and prospects that were very popular on Nerd Sesh, I want to talk about my Sacramento Kings for a second. You know, I don't think there's a lot to be optimistic about right now with Sacramento. They are the Bulls West. They are toiling in mediocrity. Levine, DeRozan, and Domas are not going to win more than 40 games. It's going to be awesome. It's not going to be awesome. It's going to be torture and arduous. But you know what?
Sure.
There is one guy that I really liked in preseason, and I think he's going to be in the league a long time. Nique Clifford is going to be an immediate impact guy for Sacramento, and I just think he has a winning skill set, man. It sucks that Nique went to Sacramento because we mocked him to Oklahoma City. really wanted to see him go to a winning situation where he could contribute immediately, right? Because I want to be clear about something. I don't think Nique has star upside. Was an older prospect, played a ton of college ball. That's not where this take is coming from. It's all the connective stuff, and I think it has been on full display, man. The guy is just so well-rounded, and I think he's a winner, and I just wish he had gone to a more immediate win, big stakes, playoff kind of team where he could play real meaningful winning minutes. But he's got so many connective traits. He hasn't scored, I think, more than 10 points in any of these preseason games. I think he scored 10 in every single one of them. But you see so much of it. Was an elite rebounding guard at Colorado State. I think you've seen some of his instincts. He's a crazy offensive rebounder for a guard. Great defensively, too. He has just got high basketball IQ and feel. Positioning, you watch this guy, he is just routinely in the right spot. And I think you've seen some of his playmaking on display, too. It hasn't been super consistent, but he had 9 assists against the Clippers. I think he brings some stuff there. Ultimately, I think what's going to determine Nique in the league is how good he is as a player, is his scoring and his shooting. I think it's all really dependent on his shot and how effective he can be as a spot-up player and a closeout attacker, because I'm talking about some of these things. I don't think Nique's ever going to be a guy that you put the ball in his hands a ton and run an offense through him or a second unit through him, or he's going to be a guy that takes on a ton of ball handling responsibility for you. He's more of a connective guy. So I do think he's got to figure the shot out, but he's just got a lot of traits that I like, man, and a lot of stuff that you talked about with him as a prospect, man. The rebounding, the basketball IQ, the feel, and the defense, too. Again, I think scoring is ultimately going to determine how great he is as a player, how important he is to a winning context. But I really liked what I've seen from him in preseason, man. And for a team that doesn't have a lot to write home about, I'm just happy that they have drafted a guy that can play and can give this team solid rotation minutes, and somebody that I can root for the Kings this year. So shout out Nique Clifford, man. I've liked what I've seen from him in preseason.
It's just a phenomenal pick. To get him 24th, I thought that he was a lottery talent, even understanding he's 23 years old. He's just too good at too much to let fall that late into the first round, in my opinion, when it comes to his ability to be a secondary ball handler for you, to be an instinctual playmaker, to be a pretty good pull-up shooter. He can utilize the mid-range game. He's a good finisher. There is that capable shooting off the catch. It's everything that you said. I mean, a plus defensive profile overall, the great positional rebounding. There's just no world in which Nique Clifford is not a good NBA player who can fit pretty much any team's needs, because he does a variety of things well for you. And they're things that complement other good players that don't really step on toes, that are never redundant. So, yeah, that was a home run. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do for Sacramento. Now, I do think that the guard rotation is maybe getting a little bit overcrowded there now, because they still have Malik, and they added Schroeder, and now they've added Russ. I don't know that they needed to add Russ.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on, man.
They're in a miserable
Russ
situation.
Russ is going to take us from winning. Don't even get me started. We're going to win. Yeah, bro. We're going to go from winning 38 games to 40 games. Sick. Or some bullshit like that.
Yeah, the range of outcomes is so limited. This is why we talked about the Kings for 5 minutes in our season preview, as we talked about the Jazz young guys for 28 minutes.
Time, bro. They're more interesting. The Jazz are more interesting, bro.
They are, because nothing is changing for a Kings team that was already thoroughly mediocre. They have all of the exact same limitations. They have the same incomprehensible timeline and priorities of being built around this aging, expensive core that has nowhere to go. That's just the reality for Sacramento. They're screwed. But Nique Clifford, he is a diamond in the rough, and I love him. And I'm not afraid to say it, Logan. I love Nique Clifford. And I'm not afraid to say this either, Logan. It's okay that Nikola Topic is getting his testicles operated on. And the reason that I say that is because A.J. Mitchell looks good. And so even in the absence of Topic, as he gets his balls worked on, and we send him all of our thoughts and prayers, because good Lord knows we have all been there, brother. We have all been there, and I just hope you're going to the right surgeon. When it comes to A.J. Mitchell, I think that in our OKC preview, we probably downplayed his role for the team this year, because we talked a fair bit about that need, or at least that desire, to have one more ball handler for OKC, because the burden on Shea and J-Dub, especially in their lone minutes where it's just one of them floating the unit, like the ball handling burden on them is so great. And you could see that be a little bit exposed as an issue for this team in terms of half-court offense in certain moments last year. And Topic intuitively was the guy you look at. By the way, it's so interesting with the 2024 draft because there are so many guys who you do feel like fall into similar ranges. Like if I were ranking my favorite guys from that class, like I just said, Buzelis would be my number one. And then I get into this pack where it's like Klingon, Risa Shea, Castle. You've got a bunch of dudes in a very similar range right there. And then maybe you go to like a McCain, Khalil Ware, Topic, Saar, Reed. Like all those guys are in that range. Topic is part of that group just because I do think he's a really good offensive talent. But you also know that there's a lot of uncertainty with him this year. And you have questions about his ability to function off ball as a catch and shooter or to hang defensively. And you just don't have any of those questions with AJ Mitchell. Like he's already proven that he is more than capable in those areas. And then he also does have the skill set that you're looking for. He is not the level of dynamic passing talent that Topic is and can be down the line, but he's got the pull-up shooting. He's got nice craft in the lane with a good floater game. He is a pretty high feel good passer. And then you also know that there's no weakness with him in the way that there might be for rookie Nikola Topic. So I just think AJ Mitchell is a nice player. He already carved out a role for himself last year before he got hurt, and he has looked noticeably better to me now. And he looks more assertive offensively, confident with the ball in his hands, making plays there. And I don't think it's a coincidence when a guy is too good for Summer League, shreds up the competition, then immediately gets pulled there, comes in, plays one preseason game for OKC, absolutely balls out in that one. Like, don't want to overreact to that, but he's giving OKC a lot to feel good about. And so I do think that it's not just, oh, he's going to fill that role for a month while Topic is getting his balls worked on. If you ask me long-term who's most likely going to be that third ball handler in the rotation, I actually think it's probably AJ Mitchell. I think there's just more unknowns with Topic this year.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair, especially since Topic is getting his balls worked on, you know? I mean, he's probably not going to be back too soon.
Right, because
I will say,
balls worked on. He's getting his balls done. By Dr. Miami, I think. I think he's getting them supersized. I hope.
He's going to Turkey to get his balls worked on.
He's going to live out the Sam Cassell fantasy, the actual big nuts. When he hits the celly, he's actually going to be holding his balls 2 feet below his hip. That's going to rock.
Dr. Umar, can you make my balls really fat?
Dr. Umar? That's a different guy. Now you're getting into Snow Bunny territory. Go back to Dr. Miami.
But the one thing I was going to add, I really do like that the Thunder keep investing in this kind of archetype of ball handler, like these versatile, bigger, jumbo-sized guys that can theoretically have like more impact. And I say theoretically more with Topic, just because Topic's main, skill is playmaking and ball handling. Where with AJ Mitchell, he's got the potential to be much more well-rounded and not just that tertiary ball handler. In terms of impacting the game defensively, rebounding. He's a very unique player. That to me is still the most important area of need for Oklahoma City at this point before we get started, but I'm encouraged. I think that he can do it. Also, in all seriousness, do we know does that mean Topic is going to miss like the majority of like the start of this year? Do we have any update on that? Like, is he going to miss significant time? I assume so.
The report was Oklahoma City Thunder guard Nikola Topic had a testicular procedure today. He will be reevaluated in approximately 4 to 6 weeks. That was October 6th. So I think he'll probably miss the better part of the first month of the season.
So maybe he's back December-ish?
Maybe Thanksgiving. That would be nice for us. He doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving. He's Serbian. But for the American community to know that Nikola Topic's balls are safe and sound and they've been taken care of and he can play basketball again, I'd like to be able to
supersized. He might need to go full
table.
South Park and just like carry a wheelbarrow with him everywhere for those bad boys.
Is there a character in South Park with such massive balls that he's got a wheelbarrow for him?
Oh, boy. Do I have something to show you, Carson.
Logan was just telling me the other day, this hasn't gone out yet, it's in a TikTok, about, what's her name? Aunt Fanny? This woman with the massive ass?
Dude, big old butt.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's just the greatest, dude. And I relate to it on a deeply personal level. I'm going to say one more thing here. Opening night Thunder Rockets is going to rock so much, dude. That is going to be so much fun. Obviously, there's like the storyline of KD returning to OKC for their first ever ring ceremony. That's going to be a crazy dynamic. But even more so, just like such a fascinating stylistical matchup. I can't wait to get the first new look at these Rockets. I'm excited to see OKC, not just because they're the best team in basketball and I love watching them play, but also like, let's get a look at what Chet looks like after a full off season. Let's see the development of an AJ Mitchell now in a real full speed NBA regular season game against a great defense. See if J-Dub is at any little wrinkles. Like, it's also just two great teams doing battle. It's two very unique teams. It's going to be such a great defensive matchup, athletically, up and down. And that contrast is going to be really fun. And also, it's the biggest test that Houston can face when we are talking about this unique kind of offense they're going to try to run. If anybody is going to just brutally punish you for having a lack of ball handling, it's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I do think that Reed Sheppard might kind of experience 15 9/11s in his debut this season. I think he's going to have a good year. That's a scary matchup, though, when you're dealing with 48 minutes of Caruso, Kaysen, J-Dub, Lou Dort. Like, any matchup that he's going to have on him is going to be very, very tricky. What is your fifth takeaway, Logan?
My final take for today may not come to fruition. I think it is by far my least confident preseason prediction. But that being said, I think the San Antonio Spurs might be closer to a playoff push this season than we've previously imagined. Now, obviously, I think this goes without saying, but I will still say it. I think this is wholeheartedly contingent on Wemby staying healthy and continuing to improve. And so, just to lay that out there, we talk about this all the time. Transformative defensive prospect, improved the Spurs defense by damn near 10 points per 100 possessions last season. Unreal, right? So I think he gives them such a high floor defensively when he's available and out there. Just completely changes the game. Along with that, though, I think Wemby could be a much more consistent offensive player in some of the stuff that we're seeing out of preseason. Pushing in transition and what we're getting out of that, where he is just flying to the basket looking like a jumbo-sized Giannis. Playmaking out of transition, creating easy opportunities for him. Getting the easy looks under the basket where guys are feeding him the ball. All that's encouraging. The most encouraging thing to me is how fucking big he looks and how strong he looks. If Wemby is going to get switches and start big bodying, there's a clip from the Pacers game. I don't know if it's Aaron Nesmith. Granted, Aaron Nesmith is not the guy that you want guarding Wemby. I mean, just bumps him out of the frame. He's under the basket in a post-up and just shoulders Nesmith probably 6 to 7 feet back, yams on him.
This fucking guy.
Damn! It's not even on purpose!
You need to get serious and you need to get this sorted out because you are clip farming every episode and it's not okay.
I need a lobotomy.
It's a shame they stopped doing those.
Dude, I was always saying, man, I would just love if somebody could just take an ice pick and, jam it on up in there, dude.
Yeah, and you just forget everything and you go kind of blank and you stare into the distance for the rest of your life.
But have you seen those ads where, like, you look so cool and badass afterwards?
Lobotomy ads?
Have you seen old lobotomy ads? They're kind of crazy.
Wow, I would love to see that.
It'll be like a guy who's like,
ones and bring it back.
He's like drooling and out of it, and then like they switch to the new one, and he's smiling, and he's got a cigarette in his mouth, and he's like, dude, old lobotomy ads are actually crazy. It was just fake. It was all bull.
That rocks.
Anyway, hopefully Wemby does not get lobotomized. Wemby takes an offensive leap. He balls out this year. That's a huge component of the Spurs and this take. Along with that, though, full year of Fox and Wemby, I think, is encouraging. Fox is the best offensive player still that Wemby will have played with. I'm optimistic that they're going to have a two-man game there. But it's also got to do with the two young guards. Harper and Castle have been pretty impressive to me, too, in just terms of what they can do as connective pieces initially. Obviously, I think Harper is going to bring some offensive punch and has insane all-star upside long-term. I think that's going to be more fully realized over the next few seasons, but I think he's going to be good in whatever role they put him in this year. And some of the surrounding pieces, I think Luke Kornet is a big addition to the Spurs in terms of what he can do in these double big lineups with Wemby and what he can do as a straight-up rim protector and defensive anchor when Wemby's off the floor. I think he changes a lot of dynamics about this team. It's goofy. Luke Kornet is a goofy guy, but you know what? He's impactful, and he's a winner, and he's going to make a big difference. And then the other two guys I want to shout out would be Harrison Barnes and Champagnie, where I don't love either of those guys that much, but it's like connective 3-and-D wings. I think they're in good roles, and they're not overtasked where, I have, again, my issues with Harrison Barnes. He is good in this role as like your fifth or sixth guy, best player on the team. And then Champagnie, I like off the bench as a floor spacer, defender, and connective playmaker. Like, if Wemby can stay healthy and he continues to improve on offense and there's something tangible in improvement that we can measure there, I think there is a chance that the Spurs are either just outright in the playoffs or knocking on the door, getting into the play-in and sneaking in that way, man. I've liked what we've seen from the Spurs so far in the preseason, especially Wemby.
Wemby is going to be top 5 this year. I'm going to say that confidently. I think that we are very, very likely to look up at the end of the year and say, yep, he has joined that group that right now is only Jokic, Shea, Giannis, Luka. I think he'll be the next guy, and he might be better than one or two of those guys. You can't write off the possibility. You can't write off the possibility of anything, really, with Wemby. The strength addition is significant. He came out and said that he's added 30 pounds since he entered the league. Now, obviously, a fair bit of that was last year already, but he's just added more strength this year. And look, it's not going to happen all at once with Wemby. It may happen with him faster than just about anybody else, but I still think that there is definitely work to be done in terms of him actually being able to consistently play through the post. We saw him have some turnover issues there in preseason. We saw him have some turnover issues overall, which I think is kind of naturally a product of him doing more with the ball in his hands. There still needs to be some tightening up there when it comes to him playing out of isolation. Right now, I think the tendency often is get to the step back three because he's not necessarily super comfortable driving into traffic or getting past people off the bounce. But nevertheless, a Wemby who is a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit more effective on ball in these different ways could be a top 5 player because the defense is already the best in the world. The offense, he already has the ridiculous ability to finish above the rim out of pick and roll and make 36% of his 9 3-point attempts per game. He is going to make the floor for this team so high. I still don't think the roster is there to have this team in the playoffs. I think the West is just too good. I think they're going to be about a 500 team, but I think they just don't have enough high-level players when you look at everybody else around them. I will tell you, though, the future of Harper and Wemby collectively, I could not be higher on. Like I've said this a lot, I think that Dylan Harper is flat out a very likely future All-Star, potential future All-NBA kind of player, a guy who could be the number 1 pick in a number of drafts. Just happened to be that he was going up against Cooper Flagg this year, but he's so impressive already. His ability to just live in the paint, his craft as a driver, his athleticism, his burst, the elite finishing at the rim, and then the really impressive passing awareness and feel. I mean, there are some reads that he makes where he gets all the way downhill. He's making some of these wraparound passes and kickouts where, like, he doesn't have visibility of the player who's actually throwing the pass to until the last second, and he's just fooling defenses, making some skip passes, and off ball, he obviously has to be more consistent shooting off the catch, and his shot consistency overall is going to be a swing factor for him. But he's a smart player. He can create the separation for the step backs and the pull-up jumpers. He's just got to make them more consistently. And when it comes to the off-ball stuff, I mean, this is a guy who has good feel as a cutter. All that stuff is really, really exciting for me. I think that those two are the amazing foundation here. And then you mentioned the transition stuff with Wemby. That's where I think this team does have certain looks that can be really effective. I mean, with the full court speed of Fox, with the full court speed of Harper and Castle, like we talk about how it doesn't really make sense to have all three of these athletic guards who to varying extents have questions as jump shooters and are going to want to have the ball in their hands a fair bit and all that. But when it comes to them just like pushing in transition, flying up and down the court, I think that they all work simultaneously. And so that's going to be a fun part of this offense to watch. And I am excited to see what Castle looks like in year two. Like, I'm not the highest on him, but I do like him. And even though I'm probably not as high as the average person on his on-ball potential, I think that there are certainly flashes there. I really do like the passing. I think that you can see it with the handle and the athleticism. It's just, I think that there's so much work that needs to be done with him as a shot maker. But I also think with his rebounding value at the position, with his defensive potential, like if he can just be a solid catch and shooter, he's going to find a role to be successful in this league no matter what. And it could be that the long-term backcourt for San Antonio is him and Dylan Harper. If Castle becomes more of a complementary off-ball player, and he's also, by the way, somebody who has good cutting feel, like it really comes down to the shot, but if he can get there, Harper will be the offensive engine. He'll be the on-ball guy. They'll both be really good passers. They're two big athletes in the backcourt who can really more than hold their own defensively. Like Harper at least has the potential to do that down the line. There is a lot to like about San Antonio's future. However, I do still think they are really young and relatively far away. So I won't get too excited about the preseason, even though they went 4-0, and I thought Wemby looked good, and I thought that Dylan Harper looked really, really good. For my fifth takeaway, I kind of just have a bunch of quick shout-outs. I cheated. There were too many things I wanted to talk about for a second, but nothing else that I really wanted to do a full spiel on. So I did mention Lonzo being back in Cleveland. Like, I'm really optimistic about that fit there, and fingers crossed he can stay healthy. 35 games played in 3 years. You can't be more concerned about a player getting hurt than Lonzo, but hopefully they protect his body. He's not going to be overtasked here, and we can see him for that playoff push. I also wrote down how good Dylan Harper has looked, so I guess we've already knocked out a couple of my shout-outs. Khalil Ware Logan, who is a guy who both of us liked as a prospect. You really, really grew to like, despite the fact that very early in the draft process, I remember you didn't like Khalil, and then he became one of your favorites by the end of the draft process, and through his rookie year, gave you 17 and 11 in preseason. And there's just the obvious value of being a guy who's 7 foot with a 7'5" wingspan, absolutely massive human being who is a big-time lob threat and then can also shoot 44% from three on legitimate volume. Now, I'm not saying he can do that. Let me be clear. That's what he did over 5 preseason games, but the potential for him to be a legitimate stretch big is very obvious. And when you can be a vertical spacer like that and a legitimate floor spacer like that, there's just not many dudes who have that combination. And even if you are maybe lacking a little bit of nuance elsewhere, like that's still going to lead to you carving a rollout. But also, I think we've seen solid touch from him, solid ambidexterity when it comes to working in the paint. Some of these post touches that I don't know that he's going to get a lot of throughout the regular season, but he's shown capability there. He certainly has the tools to be quite a good rim protector. Like, I think he is going to be a nice 5 in this league. He already had an encouraging rookie season, and I just kind of like Miami's talent, man. We talked about this. I think it's a little bit slept on. I think they are going to be a good defense. I think they are going to be a capable offense. I like Jovic a lot. I like them bringing back Davion. I like Khalil. There's just a number of guys who I think maybe I'm a little bit higher on than the average here, but I am excited to see what Ware does this year. And then my last thought here, the Knicks offense to me looks how it should under Mike Brown. The biggest criticism of New York's offense last year was just that it was too stagnant, that it was too overwhelmingly dependent on what Jalen Brunson can do on an island, on ball with this crazy burden and a lack of creativity and movement around him. And Mike Brown is like the antithesis of that. Mike Brown is Mr. Motion. He revolutionized the Kings offense. We should never forget, Logan. Led them to be the number one offense in basketball, and obviously comes from the Warriors school of thought.
Because fucking Fox didn't want to close out on a shooter, man. What bullshit is that?
Well, you know what? I would rather see him in New York than I would in Sacramento. I'll tell you that right now. I think they will make better use of his basketball mind as an offensive guy. We're seeing more handoffs. We're seeing more threes. We're seeing more overall ball and player movement. And I just think it adds layers to this offense. I think that it makes them harder to guard, less predictable, embeds more advantages within the offense, where again, it's just not, okay, Brunson, you have to make something happen every single possession. And oftentimes, as good as Brunson is, that's going to result in like a 45% mid-range pull-up, which is like, yeah, really good self-created offense, but no offense should be living off of self-created possessions every time. And there's enough shooting here to do more. There's more that can be tapped into with the Cat Brunson two-man game, more that can be tapped into with Brunson off ball, more that can be tapped into with Cat's passing, in my opinion. And that's a big tenet of a Mike Brown offense. And I just see all that stuff coming to fruition early on in a way that says to me they're going to make the changes that you would expect them to and like them to see with Mike Brown. And I think it's going to make them a little bit better as a playoff offense. To me, that was always the secondary concern with New York to their defensive issues. But it is true that their offense in the playoffs was not what it was in the regular season, and this could be a good solve for that.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that it will too. I desperately miss Mike Brown. He's a good coach. He's talented. He gets offense. Only thing I'll add on Ware, it's kind of strange to me, man. All the offensive stuff that I liked about him as a prospect has really come through, and I'm super impressed with him. Like, crazy size, great athlete, should be a great vertical lob threat shot. I think he was 1 to 2 threes a game at Indiana, but he was making them at a 40% clip. Like, it wasn't a huge sample size. So all of that has come along very nicely. I have been disappointed in his defense, though, I will say. I don't know. It's weird to me because the defense was way more the selling point with Khalil as a prospect to me, and it's kind of inverted. We're now super impressed with his offense. He has come along in a big way, but the defense leaves a little bit to be desired. He's still got all the tools, don't get me wrong.
Right.
And I think he's going to figure it out. Honestly, in the situation with Miami, I think it's kind of better that he's figured out the offense more than the defense because I really like the personnel. Davion, Wiggins, Bam. They can make up if he's not super impactful. I think they need that offensive punch more, but that's the one area that I want to see from Khalil take a leap this season. I think he's going to be a lot better offensively, but I'd like to see the defense match it.
I would agree, but I would also say we are talking about a rookie here, or a guy who's coming off his rookie season, and it's difficult to definitively judge somebody's rookie season defensively when you know that they have the physical tools. And like at the very least, Khalil Ware is always going to have the value of being massive. And like per 36, just off of that, he was averaging 12 rebounds and 2 blocks last year. I agree with you. He wasn't as impactful as a rim protector as maybe I would have liked to see, but the potential is clearly there. And if you put together the combination of vertical spacing, lob threat, legitimate three-point shooting value, and the rim protection, and then on top of that, a little bit of paint touch, like that's just a desirable skill set to have from a big, and you don't have to do more than that to be able to carve out a starting role for yourself and bring a positive value in a specific combination of traits that like pretty much every team in the league is going to be happy with if they can get that from a big man. So it's going to be interesting to see like how much they play him alongside Bam this year, how much they play him as the lone big. There's a lot of stuff that I'm interested in with Miami, and I do think they're going to be a scrappy, competitive team, and I think that Khalil Ware's improvement is going to help them. There you have it, folks. All of our preseason NBA takeaways. I am fiending, Logan. I am itching. This has helped with my withdrawals a little bit. I don't know if I've ever watched this much preseason. This was just like kind of a fun preseason. It felt like it mattered a little bit more. I don't know why. LaMelo is like jawing the Grizzlies as he's going on a run against them. And I'm like, it's preseason, but it feels like kind of real basketball. It's some portion of the way there. But now we've got the real deal starting on Tuesday. We've got one more NBA preview show before then where we will give all of our award picks, our official standings, our playoff predictions, all that good stuff. And don't forget, Sunday night we're going to be live with our NFL reaction. I apologize that we haven't been live a couple of recent weeks. Everybody's been freaking out about it, and I've seen it, and I promise you that I'm pretty sure that's only going to happen one more time this entire year. Other than that, we will be live every Sunday night as you guys expect and need, and then we'll have some real live basketball to talk about by mid next week, Logan. Unfortunately, La Sciatica will not be able to play, but I mean, we've still got a phenomenal opening night matchup with Rockets Thunder, and then Wednesday, everybody under the sun plays, which is just going to rock. So, if you want to be with us through our journey as we enjoy and talk about all of this, please do join us. You can follow us, of course, on YouTube for all of our content, all of our full episodes, some breakout clips from the shows, and our video essays, video breakdowns on the NBA and NFL. You can also listen to the show across all audio platforms, and you can follow us across social for some of our original TikTok takes, for some clips from the show, and for all of our graphics when we make picks, and of course, all of our trivia content. And you can join our Discord if you want to be part of our community over there. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys so much. I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.